Tony Cowden. I'm one of the co-founders of The Reason Outdoors. I served 22 years now in the U.S. Army over in the Special Forces side.
Hi, I'm Somplasky. I'm one of the co-founders of The Reason Outdoors. I am still currently in the United States Coast Guard and have been serving for the last 17 years.
And I'm Ryan Kuperus. Everyone calls me Coop. I spent 17 plus years in the Marine Corps as a recon Marine before I was medically retired, and also founder of The Reason Outdoors.
Right.
So The Reason Outdoors is a nonprofit that we discussed fairly in depth about 6 years ago, and finally decided it was time to bring to fruition a nonprofit that focuses on bringing veterans and first responders and their children out on hunting and outdoor adventures.
The entire intent and mission of The Reason is not just on the surface a hunting trip. It's definitely much deeper than that. We've all seen the post-war suicide numbers, the depression rates, the sickness rates amongst our veterans, and also in our first responders, right? The entire, socio-political climate in the United States has really, put quite the burden on the first responder and military communities. And we're seriously trying to do something to rectify that, to give guys a new purpose, to share with them the reasons that we hunt. For me, it's a very mentally rewarding thing. It's very physical. That definitely ties over. It gives me a reason to stay physically fit, which obviously supports mental health. And then, of course, there's something spiritual about spending that mentally taxing, physically demanding time up in the mountains or in the woods, in a tree stand, whatever it is, to take and harvest an animal, whether it's a deer or seafood, whatever. If we're fishing, hunting, just being outdoors, it's all about sharing those reasons that we all enjoy, the positive benefits that we get out of so much in these hunting trips or these outdoor trips. It's for me, it's not just a hunting season thing. It's a year-round thing. My physical fitness is, always geared towards hunting season. As soon as hunting season is over, I start training for next year's hunting season, et cetera, et cetera. And we're trying to share that purpose that we get out of planning for next year's hunting trip. That purpose with our military and first responder brothers and sisters, because let's face it, I think we've all come to the conclusion that the suicide rates and the depression rates that we're seeing in these communities is coming from a lack of purpose, a lack of brotherhood, and that camaraderie that we all had or have in the military, and then it often goes away afterwards.
And I think that's a big piece, for me specifically, is that you get away from that core group when you get out, and sometimes you lose track and you don't talk to some of the your best friends in the world, the people you spend the most time with. You probably spend more time with the people you've served with than your actual family, your wife, your kids. And the day you hang up the uniform, and eventually everyone hangs up the uniform, it doesn't matter if you spent 10 days or 10 years, eventually you leave and you start to lose that connected relationship, and you don't know, how you can assimilate a lot of times into civilian society. And hopefully we're able to kind of connect, not just on banter is a part of it, the ability to connect with like-minded folks who have had similar experiences, who may share similar traumas. And I think that's a thing that, goes unspoken. It's not something that a lot of people want to talk about. They don't want to talk about what they experienced when they were in. But it's comforting knowing that you're potentially around folks who have similar passions, have similar drives, want to do hard things together, right? Nobody in their right mind wants to hike up a mountain with 60 to 70 pounds of gear on in 20-degree weather and sleep on the side. And yet here we are, having a trip put together that does just that, but it's so much more than just hiking up the mountain. And I think that's, for me, if nothing else, harvesting an animal, it's fantastic. It's an amazing feeling, and it's something that you can always know exactly where you were, what time it was, what the wind was like, who was with you. But there's a lot of times you don't harvest an animal, but those memories are something that you continue to look back on fondly and say, you know what? You remember that time we were stuck on the side of a mountain and it was 30 degrees and we had to pull the truck out? Yeah, I remember that. That sucked that day, right? But it's something you can always positively look back on, and that hopefully through this community you start to meet other people who like to hunt. So now you've got somebody who hunts in Idaho, somebody who hunts in Washington State, somebody who hunts in Florida. Now you've got a new network that you've organically grown outside of military. It's given you the springboard to do it, but it's kind of that transition into civilian life that, quite frankly, the VA, the military, and all these other organizations don't necessarily do a great job, because not everybody understands what it's like to be a veteran. They want to say thank you for your service, but they don't know where to help. And hopefully this is just another means for us to be able to provide that long term for everybody.
Absolutely. That whole, obviously the harvest is amazing, and the shared, adversity, the camaraderie, that guys. I mean, it helped me, and
let's
it's
face
helped
it,
all of us.
Your time in service is suffering, and you grow a bond with your brothers and your sisters in service out of shared suffering. And the hunt, like this hunt, is definitely a lot of suffering. and I'll tell you, man, these boys that accompany us on this trip, man, they definitely got a big taste of some suffering, and we all shared it. And I'm personally super proud of them. You know what I mean? You don't spend this much time in the frozen mountains of Idaho chasing an animal with some bones sticking out of its noggin without getting a little frustrated with each other, a little bumping heads with each other. But here we are, almost at the end of it, and everybody is. I definitely, I have new friends out of this. I rekindled a relationship from over 10 years ago with a fellow who I thought the world of back then, and now we got to come do this. It was his first hunting trip since he was a kid. Long story short, man, freaking shared suffering. There's simply no replacement for it.
And it's a way of other Americans telling veterans and first responders and their kids thank you. By hunting their property. Out here in Idaho, anyone that we've talked to has been more than willing to either take care of us or said that it's a great thing that we're doing, and all that. Just a little bit of appreciation being shown. By fellow Americans, patriotic Americans, goes a long way to guys who forget that the fabric of this country is made up of those people.
That's right, the backbone, for sure. So this hunting trip, this Idaho backcountry backpacking elk hunting trip is, and in this year, in this case, also mule deer hunting trip because of the overlap, the two seasons. This actually, the first time we did it was, 3 years ago?
3 years ago.
Myself and Drew and a good friend of ours, Josh, we came out and did it. We had some suffering for sure on that trip, and we definitely took a liking to it. Obviously, Idaho is one of the choices because we can get over-the-counter tags, right? You don't have to wait for a draw. As long as you log in early enough, everybody gets a tag, as opposed to Wyoming, Montana stuff where it's a lottery system. So that's why we chose Idaho for one, but also a lot of public land here, considerable amount of public land, and so a lot of different hunting opportunities. We've hunted all 3 years in Area 39, which is one of the largest it's Boise River elk, but mostly Area 39, huge area. So luckily, like in this trip, we got weathered out up north. We were hunting up close to the Sawtooth Mountains, and then as weather rolled in and bad weather and low ceilings, we had to adjust, and that's why we've chosen this area in Idaho for this hunt. It is a tough hunt. It is, aside from hunting sheep, physically it's tough, but also logistically it's tough. It's just not. That's just the allure of this hunt, is that it is a hard or very difficult hunt. We are not guaranteed an elk by any means. The first 2 years that we did this hunt, we did not take one. Luckily, this trip that changed, and I think that says a lot about us right there. Is that we're willing to keep coming back, banging our heads on the wall here on this hunt.
And the backcountry do-it-yourself hunt.
Yeah,
It is the hardest, probably the hardest hunt besides a sheep or mountain goat hunt that you can do in the lower 48.
Yeah, I mean, we pack up from North Carolina, come out here the day before. We don't get to scout. We don't, we try to ping the locals at the gas station and stuff and find out, where they're moving or anything like that. But basically, we're going in blind. So it's not just logistically, physically difficult. Like, just finding the animals is difficult. Yeah. And our approach is get as far off the roads and away from other people as we can. And we see animals. The problem is where we're hunting, it is some pretty darn rough terrain. So a lot of times we might see those animals 2 miles away and have no way of getting to them. Or by the time you do get to where they're at, they decide to move, et cetera, et cetera. But that's kind of the overall, on this hunt, why it is and why we choose it.
And I think this type of hunt, is different than other styles, which hunting, if you're out hunting and doing that in general, you're going to get my applause and you're going to get my appreciation. But I think this type of hunt, for 2 reasons. One, we talked about it, it's DIY. There's no guide, there is no guarantee, there's no nominal fee that you're going to get back from the state of Idaho if you eat tag soup at the end of it. And the second piece, you kind of get to make it what it is, right? You drive your hunt, however hard you want to hunt, however far in the backcountry you want to go, whatever you're willing to suffer. And I think that's, whether we want to admit it or not, is part of the allure of it's a challenge. It's a outright challenge to say you're not guaranteed. This is the lowest take rate of any hunt you can do. It's statistically, I think they throw out like 10% of the tags that come out here get filled, right? So you're like, hey, I want that challenge. I want to go out there. I want to see, are my physical fitness standards up to par? Am I mentally still capable of doing something like this? Going day in and day out, being cold, being wet, being, cold and wet, sleeping, on the side of a mountain that it doesn't have the creature comforts, all the things we take for granted, running water, heat, power, all those things we voluntarily give up for a chance to hunt an animal that if you plunk down enough money, you'd be guaranteed to get one. And I think the other thing, why this hunt? Why did we choose this one to be, the opener, right? Why did we choose the hardest one? Well, part of this is also education. Part of it is, we don't just want you to hunt once and give up. If whether it's literally your first time hunting or your 1,000th time hunting, now all of the people that have come out and experienced this have a greater understanding of what the requirements are to go in the backcountry, what it means to hunt elk, mule deer, insert animal in a remote location. So in the hopes that this becomes a new hobby, a new habit, a new passion, a new reason. And, while I would love to see these guys again, I would also love to see them be able to spread that message and say, hey, my buddy said, I want to go hunt elk, but I don't know what it takes. I don't know the requirements. I don't know the gear. I don't know the, logistics behind how does this work? And it can be intimidating if you've never done it. And so if we've given the gift of like, hey, you've experienced a little suffering and now you can impart potentially some suffering on somebody else, and that can go to somebody else, and it can be a generational thing. For me, I didn't grow up as a generational hunter. That wasn't, my family raised me sports and education and all those things and did a fantastic job. But hunting was not something that was akin and attuned with our family. And it wasn't until later in life that I found the passion and the things that I really enjoy from hunting. And it's having your own meat that you know exactly where it came from. That's a part of it. But it's also I put the work in, I did the time, I was successful, right? And then every time I'm unsuccessful, and it happens, you miss, you don't recover an animal, whatever it may be, it's not if, it's when. Right. But you learn something from it. And every hunt that we've come on, I've learned something from.
Yeah, there are plenty of other nonprofit organizations that are taking veterans hunting. We really, our thing isn't just a one and doneer, right? It's all education. As a matter of fact, this hunt was spawned last December, 9 months before we actually pulled the trigger on setting up the Reason Outdoors. We started the planning. We gave the hunters who decided they would take this challenge, we gave them a physical fitness program, a training program to follow. We gave them a gear list. It's an educational piece. We're not trying to just take guys on one hunt. We're trying to take guys on a hunt where next year they don't need us. They take someone else on a hunt. They wind up taking their son, their daughter, their nephew, their niece, their next door neighbor, and their sons, daughters, nieces on a hunt. It's not just a one and done. This is about, perpetuating that purpose that we're talking about. It's a true educational piece. I mean, we said it when we first got out here. I looked at the guys on this hunt and I was like, I want each and every one of you to be able to come back next year on your own. And I mean, that would be one heck of a feat. So if we're setting the bar for the Reason Outdoors that kind of high, I mean, even when we get a 90% solution of that set, man, we're accomplishing something.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. Neither of the three of us do anything half speed. We chose this to be our, kind of the benchmark of the organization and what we do. This is the first one, and we chose the hardest hunt to do.
Don't tell us
we don't. Right? We don't do anything half speed. It's full steam ahead. And it's made our highs really high. We've had some lows. We've had some in between, but everybody appreciates, right, the success of a harvest. They understand, when you're in this environment, hiking hundreds of miles, putting in the work, the glassing, the just preparation, the everything.
Just to start the process, the butcher, the field dress, and then the pack out.
Right. I mean, it's just a sense of fulfillment. Whether we have a stock that ends up getting busted, or a miss, the adrenaline of that happening, that it is just, it's palpable. You can see it,
and it's contagious,
right? Yeah, and everybody gets excited, at that point in time, and that is what makes this.
It's the reason special. We hunt.
Yeah,
here the
reason. Yeah. So the trip that we're on specifically right now, we would say it's not for the weak and faint-hearted. This is a difficult trip. So, as Tony said before, all the guys, they've got backcountry training plans. I did it myself. Drew did it, where we've been texting each other all summer on ruck times and this and that. This trip specifically is, we need guys who are physically and mentally fit. Our other trips that we have coming up, we don't always have to have the most physically fit people. We know that that's not the entire veteran or first responder demographic, or heck, their kids. Right. So we've got deer hunts coming up. We've got hog hunts coming up. We got
some really cool fishing trips.
Fishing trips. Yeah. So coming up. So it's for every type of first responder, every type of military person. It's not just, there's no
there's no snobbery here, right? It doesn't matter if you were super special forces, soft guy, Navy SEAL, or support personnel, firefighter's daughter. It's about this community. That's what the reason outdoor. That's who this was created for. It's let's face it. I mean, it's for the part of our society, the backbone of our society, the protectors, the saviors. That's who it's for. And we have hunts, like we said, set up. We're making moves to get tracked wheelchairs. It's not just for the disabled who paid the higher price. It's for those guys and gals, but it's also for the full spectrum, that full difficult hunt like this, and everyone in this community between.
Yeah.
And the idea is also, when somebody wants to apply, hey, I want to be one of the folks that comes out and does a hunt, or a duck hunt, or whatever. The idea would be, hey, what are you interested in learning? What are you interested in doing? What type of activities really do you think, hey, I don't have a lot of knowledge, but I would love to learn, how to duck hunt or how to deer. I've never field dressed an animal, right? And all of those things, are like, hey, well, let's talk about X, Y, and Z, and how does this line up with what, our expectations of the difficulty level of hunting, right? So elk hunting public land in Idaho, probably need a little bit more physical fitness, a little bit more long-range shooting capability, a little bit more ability to adapt to an ever-changing weather environment, that is, the Rocky Mountains, right? So that's probably up here. And then there's like hey, this is a one-day trip where you get to go out. We're gonna set you up. You're gonna learn how to get on a hog. You get to potentially shoot a hog, and then we're gonna teach you how to field dress it. You take it home. You can tell your kids. You can tell your coworkers. You can tell whoever. Hey, I learned a new skill this weekend, and this is now I'm asking, hey, what type of equipment do I need if I want to do this on my own, right? We have different levels of experiences, from a full-on guide and outfitter, just a guy who likes to go in the woods and find animals, right? And so helping that, then they can go back and, again, okay, hey, the next time, do you think you guys could teach me about fishing? Or, can I apply for the next duck hunting trip? I've never done that, right? And, there is an aspect to it, right? This hunt specifically, it's not just time in the mountains. It's time away from family. It's time away from work. It is a long season. So that goes into it. Hey, I only have 3 days. What would fit in those 3 days that I could potentially apply for? And hopefully, then it spurs hey, I'd love to do this the next time. Or, hey, so I know such and such, and they would be really interested. And, to try to grow that network of folks that say, hey, I don't know hunting, or maybe I know hunting, but I would just really like some more connected relationships with veterans, first responders throughout the country, and hopefully we can provide that.
We hear it all the time. Support the troops. Support your first responders. I get asked a lot of times by folks who did not serve, who are, those truly appreciative Americans who haven't been tainted by, I'll just say it straight up, the bullshit liberal agenda, right? There are still so many good Americans that appreciate the protectors and saviors in our society. They are still important, and they're still important to so many people. Bottom line is, it's not, all the jokes, it's like, you can, hunting math, right? It's freaking, a $3,000 rifle, $500 backpack, $400 set of boots, et cetera, et cetera. And that's cheap big game hunting. We can start talking duck hunting where things get really expensive. The reality is, if you're one of those folks who wants to help and support but don't know how, well, you can go to thereasonoutdoors.org and donate. Soon on the website, we'll actually have an option to buy a hunter a hog hunt, buy a hunter a turkey hunt, buy a hunter a fishing trip, et cetera, and there will be a price point. And that we've also got an option for recurring donations. I just saw where a fellow set up a recurring donation of $100 a month. I mean, the guy is basically pledging $1,200 a year towards taking, our brothers and sisters on hunts. Yeah. I mean, it's quite amazing. But like I said, it's thereasonOutdoors.org, and you just hit the donate, click on that donate button, and we've got quite a few options. Of course, whether it's gear or a gun or whatever, that type of support, socks, right? Yeah. The guys from Covert, they donated socks for this trip. It's huge. Yeah. Little things like that go a long way. And of course, you know what? If financially you're not able to support us, or you don't have access to giving us, gear or something like that, then you know what? Spread the word. Yeah. You go to our social media or Instagram, The Reason Outdoors, and share a post, follow, tell people about us. That's how we grow.
If you know anyone that has property or that wants to host a hunt, it doesn't matter if we are shooting rats outside of hog barns with air rifles, super fun by the way, or we're hunting deer, we're hunting a private ranch somewhere, we're fishing, ATVing, if it's an outdoor activity, and obviously hunting and fishing, and that related stuff, someone that is going to want to host that or has property that they let us hunt, then contact us with that as well. All of those things will help spread the word.
Doesn't matter where it's at, what state. Our intent is to grow this to where it's not just the three of us, but other guides or experienced hunters to represent us. We have a good friend of mine that I've known a long time over in Special Forces. He's taking some veterans, youngins, children, on a whitetail hunt up on a ranch in Montana. So it's not just about the money. It's not just about the donations of gear or anything like that. It could just be, helping us out, representing us, and taking somebody on a hunt.
Absolutely.
And I'd say, other intangible things, like, hey, I can't donate money, but I would love to donate my time for X resource, right? That we are new at a nonprofit, and we are learning all of the intricacies of what goes into a nonprofit. And there's a lot, and some of it, we are going to hand fist our way through because we said, well, you can't tell me no. I'm just going to figure it out. But there's probably ways to do it better, right? And so, if you're one of those people out there like, hey, I learned this the hard way, send us an email. We have our emails on the website. We check and respond as long as we have service, which in the backcountry is not always guaranteed. But those types of things, you don't have to, as we talked about, it doesn't necessarily have to be money, but time, resources, networking. Hey, I know this person and I think they'd be able to help you. That's fantastic. With every relationship that we cultivate in Idaho, whether it's North Carolina, Florida, Texas, Alaska, or anywhere else in the country, if you have the opportunity to potentially help us so that we can then turn around and help the veterans, first responders, and their children in the future, we are 100% open to it. Learning occurs almost daily with the things that we're trying to do so that we can make every hunt, every purposeful mission and the things that we put together a better experience, so that hopefully the next time the things that we learned from this hunt we take forward. But as somebody once told me, a wise man learns from the mistakes of others. I would rather somebody tell me, hey, don't do this. Hey, you guys, you can avoid this pitfall and this mistake by doing this. That in and of itself didn't cost money, doesn't probably cost you a whole lot of time, but probably saves us a lot and would really benefit. And I can say I would appreciate any of that we've already talked about, and anything in the future that could help us continue to do this and be able to get out, get outdoors, get the veteran first responder community and their children out and experience. And hopefully this becomes a growth of a community And again, when I look at a soft landing pad for somebody to come who's spent and dedicated their life in service in one form or another, to be able to have something else, the next thing, the next ridge line, the next hilltop. What am I going towards? That's what I hope we can build together. But we can't do it by ourselves.
Yeah. So, bottom line, and from the bottom of our hearts, any support you can send our way, it's greatly appreciated, and will be put directly towards sharing the reasons we hunt and fish with first responders, veterans, their children, or our brothers and sisters.
And a special thank you to all of our sponsors, corporate sponsors, private sponsors, friends, family who've donated to this hunt, whether that was their money, gear. We've had a ton of, we've had an outpouring of support in the very short time that we've got this started. And we are eternally appreciative because it has helped us out immensely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.